I think there are many flaws in our system, and we set these legislators up with an expectation that within 2 years they're going to get something substantial done. But anything that is intractable, that is challenging our society, we're not going to figure out in just 2 years from soup to nuts. We have a right to expect that our politicians are going to solve problems.
Welcome to The Stacks, a podcast about books and the people who read them. I'm your host, Tracy Thomas, and today it is one of the great honors of my life to welcome to the podcast Vice President Kamala Harris. She is here to talk about her brand new book, 107 Days, which is out now. The Vice President and I talk about her campaign, both the highlights and the missteps. We also talk about the impact of political polling, and she shares her vision for America's future. The Stacks Book Club pick for September is The Lilac People by Milo Todd, which I will be discussing with Den Michelle Norris on Wednesday, September 24th. Everything we talk about on each episode of The Stacks can be found in the link in the show notes. Listen, I know that my little indie book podcast, The Stacks, this is probably the first time you're listening to it. So if you like what you hear, please consider supporting my work and supporting the work of independent media by joining the Stacks Pack, our online literary community, at patreon.com/thestacks and subscribing to my newsletter at tracythomas.substack.com. You earn perks, you get a lot of hot takes from me, plus you get to know that your money is going to making this show possible. And don't forget, new episodes of The Stacks are out every Wednesday. All right, now it is time for my conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris. All right, everybody, when I say that I'm excited about today's guest, it is the understatement of maybe my entire life. I am so thrilled to be joined today by Vice President Kamala Harris. Welcome to The Stacks.
Thank you, Tracy. It's great to be on The Stacks with you.
I mean, this is a dream come true. So thank you so much. We're going to talk about the book,
Yes.
107 Days. I've read your other books, and that's kind of where I want to start. Your first two books are sort of, you're introducing yourself to the world. You're introducing yourself. It's the typical political memoir of like, this is what I believe in. This is who I am. With this book, you're stepping into a totally different audience. Everyone knows you. Everyone knows what's supposed to be in this book. How are you approaching this differently? What does it feel like?
So this book, so you're right. The last book I wrote, The Truths We Hold, and then before that was Smart on Crime, which was my theory about criminal justice policy, from 20 years ago. But the last book was really, I think a memoir. It was about my life story and explaining who I am and the influences on my life. This book is not a memoir. This book, I think you should think of as a political thriller, nonfiction.
Yeah.
Right. It's about 107 days, and that's I didn't get creative with the title. I just named the book what it is. It's about those 107 days and a campaign that millions of people were a part of, most of whom I never met. And we're on that journey. We're watching it. We're participating. And I just felt it was so important to capture the behind the scenes aspect of it, but also to capture, I met on the road in our country so many amazing people. And to share, hopefully in this book, the vision that I had of them in all of these places, to share it with the rest of us.
Yeah.
In a way that hopefully reminds us that we as Americans really do have an incredible amount of optimism and hope for the future of our country. And I know we're in dark times right now, but we can't lose sight that also is a part of who we are, that we do retain that kind of hope and belief in the future. And especially right now, I think we need to remember that we can't let that die.
Yeah. I think I do want to talk about the dark days we're in now, but I think maybe we should do that later. I want to start with some of the book stuff, because I don't want to spend all my time talking about the other person, this is your book. You've written this book, and it's definitely a moment. And I think, I'm plugged into the news. I know what's being talked about. I read the piece in the Atlantic, obviously. And, the big sound bite that's already coming out is sort of what was going on with you and Joe Biden. And, this comment of like, were we being reckless by not sitting down and having these conversations? And I think my first real question about that is, when did you know that like maybe this isn't the best idea? Like, when was the first time? Because I know for some people it was when Ezra Klein talked about it on the New York Times podcast. And I know for some people it wasn't until, the debate. And so when was it for you that you started to feel like maybe I should be part of this conversation?
So let me start by saying this. This book is not about Joe Biden.
No, it's not.
And this book is not about my vice presidency.
No.
This book is about 107 days and putting those 107 days in context where necessary. And so, but you're right. I do, the book was the product of many months that I had after the election and after I came back after the inauguration to just reflect. And part of those reflections included realizing I should have said something. And as I write, was it, I had to ask myself, was it grace or was it reckless on my behalf? I won't speak for others, but on my behalf, to have not raised it with him. And meaning the concern about, was he really up to running, right? Because that's what I'm talking about. I don't have any question about his capacity to have done the job of being president and the job he was doing. It was about, was he up to running for re-election? As I described, and running for president of the United States, running for any office, but president of the United States, it's like being in a marathon at a sprinter's pace while tomatoes are being thrown at you every step you take.
Right.
It's an endurance test. It is extremely taxing on every element of who you are. So yes, I realized that I probably should have said something, and that is one of the regrets that I have, to be honest. And I have been probably more candid in writing and in my reflections than people thought I would be. But certainly. I just think it's important to be honest about just what it was so that we can move forward. Right?
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the book is that you are super candid with us and you do sort of share these. There were moments in the book where I was like, oh, didn't think I was going to get that. Like when you have the list of what everybody said to you after sort of Joe Biden's announcement. And I'm like going through, and I was like, oh, didn't know we were going to get Newsom's moment. I'll leave that for people. I won't spoil the Newsom moment, but I wasn't, I felt like, oh, she's really letting us in, which I think is, to be frank, the question that people often have with books like this. How far is the author going to go? Are they really going to tell us what they were thinking and feeling? And I do feel like as the reader, I got a way better sense of your mindset. I also was thrilled to see some of my absolute favorite political people show up in the book, including David Plouffe. I am his number one fan. I volunteered on the Obama campaign when I was 18 or 22. And I remember I used to wait up for the field organizing calls so that I could listen to David Plouffe. So I was like, I didn't even know. I was so excited. So shout out to him. I want to know, when you're in this sprint marathon with the tomatoes and there's all this stuff going on and you have this whole team of people, you've all been mobilized for only 107 days. You're figuring it out as you go. How much are you relying on your political instincts and how much are you relying on outside voices? And does that get confusing for you? Because there are moments in the book, famously, I think, the Pete Buttigieg question of you wanted him, but you weren't sure it was going to work out because you understood and outside voices. So what is that balance like for you? Because you have great political instincts. You're Kamala Harris. You're the vice president. Like, you're not a slouch, right? So how do you balance all that noise with you?
So, those first many chapters, around the first 2 weeks, no political polling. We had no polling. We had just nothing. It was pure instinct. Right. So when I came up with the whole speech about I know his type, right? That was pure political instinct. That was my instinct. Like, if I just break down who this guy is, the guy I'm running against,
Right.
and if you just deconstruct who he is based on even through my lens of experience as a prosecutor, you know who this guy, you know his type, right? Or when I came up with this line that, because I make America great again, and well, what does that mean again? Like we're going backward. And so I came up with this line just kind of spontaneously, we're not going back. And then the crowd just picks up on it and just runs, we're not going back, we're not going back. Yeah. And it became a line of the campaign, right? Yeah. And so to your point, instinct, at least for the beginning, and when we were really ramping up and gaining momentum, was the driving force. It was not polling, but it's a campaign for president. And polling must be done. Polling is done. And honestly, I mean, part of what I also try to do with this book is take us beyond the campaign to where we need to go as a future, right? And in our future. And part of the candor that I hope I bring to this discussion is we also need to be frank about what's not working in terms of the way we run campaigns. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So polling, it's a flawed process. A lot of polling is we want to get back that what we thought was right. Right. As opposed to
right.
Where are the people? What are they really thinking? Instead of just, let's poll to test our message, the message that we decided is a good message. Yeah. And I think that's part of what's flawed. And that's part of what I want us to think about as we move forward and how we're all thinking, especially those in politics, about are we really relevant to the concerns, the dreams, the hopes of the American people? Right. But, so polling can sometimes override your instinct because you're just presented with all this data that says this is what people think or not. And sometimes I think it's just important to trust your life experience that your gut might actually be right, even when the pollsters don't think that it's correct.
Talking about just the length of the campaign and sort of, I think one of the things that's really challenging for a lot of Americans, and I'm sure you feel this way and you probably get this feedback, is how long these election cycles generally are, right? I think when it comes to your congressperson, it's like the day they get in, they start campaigning again. We're getting these emails, we're getting these texts, support us, do this, do that. Right. And there's this urgency and this obsession with time. And obviously in your case, there's an extreme obsession with time because you have so little, especially compared to everyone else. But I'm wondering what you think about sort of that juxtaposed with the feeling and the conversation of progress takes time and having to constantly tell the voter, quick, so that we can wait, so that we can hope that Washington will push this through. How do you navigate that as someone who legislates and someone who represents people, but also is wanting of this support that is going to eventually take a long time?
I think there are many flaws in our system. And you're right. I mean, members of Congress on the House side, their terms are 2 years. And when they're up for re-election, the biggest point that their opponent will make is, the only thing you got done was naming a post office box or a post office, right?
Yeah.
But if we want our legislators to come up with policy that actually can be implemented, right? So that it makes sense, it's been well thought out, researched. It's not going to come through its whole process within 2 years.
Right.
And so there is something about one aspect of the flaw is that we set these legislators up with an expectation that within 2 years they're going to get something substantial done. But anything that is intractable, that is challenging our society, I doubt, and I know this to be true, we're not going to figure out in just 2 years from soup to nuts.
Right.
So we also have to give people more grace.
Yeah.
And maybe that requires us to trust them, and they have to earn that trust, of course. But to
then being politicians.
Yes. And to give them the grace and hopefully they earn our trust to do that, so that they can actually dig deep on big issues and fix the problems that the American people face. And so that's one of the issues, I think. The issue about time is also, I talk a lot about this. We expect that our leaders are going to have the plan. You know that part of the book where I talk about it because my mother was a scientist, and and scientists, like many academics, they don't operate expecting that everybody has the plan, uppercase T, uppercase P.
Right.
Instead, they encourage hypotheses, right? Come up with a hypothesis and then test it out, because we know the first time you roll it out, there is going to be a glitch. Reconvene, don't make the same mistake twice, but you're not going to be penalized for it because, after all, it was a hypothesis.
Right.
We want politicians to have the plan, they run on the plan, no matter how flawed it is, and then they have to spend full time defending a flawed plan.
Right.
So there's something about how we're doing politics right now in the way that we've set up expectations that is, I think, setting up unreasonable expectations. We have a right to expect that our politicians are going to solve problems. I think we have to look at how the system is designed to ask, is it actually conducive to solving those problems?
If you could wave a magic wand and make it different, how would you change that? What would be the answer to the hypothesis versus a flawed plan situation?
I think we would not expect that good public policy ends with an exclamation point, because it rarely does.
Yeah.
We would encourage that there would be discussions about and an open conversation about theories about how we will actually fix things, and that we would allow for a certain level of humility instead of what we do, which is, I think, encourage arrogance in these people who are running.
Yeah. I mean, I think we even reward it in a lot of ways.
I think yes, I agree with you.
I think there's a sense of what a politician should be and a kind of personality that they should have, and that if politicians don't have that, or they don't look that way, or they don't present in that way, it's almost, they're immediately shut down. And I think, we're seeing where that gets us, right? Like, we're in a situation now where we have a lot of really loud people saying a lot of different things, on both sides, with a level of arrogance that is just stunning, because it feels so far removed from all the conversations that I feel that I'm having with my friends and family, and that I think other people are having. There's just such a disconnect. And I do think a lot of it is just ego. But I guess on the flip side of that, the kind of person who wants to run for office in a lot of these ways, like, has to have a huge ego to be like, pick me, choose me.
You can have an ego because you believe in what you're saying. And because you have, I don't expect that people will be without ego, because that also, that's the other extreme, right? We want people to have a certain level of confidence, because if you believe in what you stand for, often, especially if you're talking about the people who need support the most, you're going to have to fight for it. And if you don't have a healthy ego, you're not going to have the strength to be able to do that, right? Yeah. But what I think is lacking is we are not encouraging a debate about what does strength look like,
right?
And rejecting the notion that the measure of strength is based on who you beat down, as opposed to the real measure of strength being who you lift up, right? And now, in this environment in particular, there are so many signals that are suggesting that the strong person is the one who knows how to beat people down, minimize people, depreciate people, marginalize people, as opposed to those who respect the dignity in other human beings.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's two issues, I think, in the campaign, if as an outsider, that I think you highlight in the book that I think stick out to me as having been particularly challenging for your campaign. One of them was what's happening in Gaza, and the other was trans rights and trans people. And, famously, the Trump campaign ran that ad during all the games about, Kamala's for they, them, that whole thing. And I think the other side of it is this conversation about who was included, had a seat at the table when it came to Palestinians, and the conversation of America and our allyship with Israel in the face of utter brutalization. And I think as I was reading the book, my big question, and I guess it's kind of on the topic of both of these things, is there's so much centering of sort of the aggressor, like the person with the power. And I feel like we're leaving out so many people. I think, the conversation when it comes to Gaza in the book, you talk a lot about like Israel's our allies. There's our friends. They're not doing things that we like, but they're still our friend. And it kind of ignores what's happening to the people, if we're centering you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm wondering for you, because those feel like two big issues that came up, how would you have handled them differently? Is there a way that you see that maybe you misstepped or you missed what people were saying to you about them and you would go back and fix or readdress?
Well, you're right to bring this up because that, again, is, I think, what has surprised people about this book. I'm very honest about my regrets and what, in reflection, I think or we, but I will only speak for myself because that's where I have agency, where we could have done things differently. On the issue of Israel, I mean, listen, I don't regret that we said that Israel had a right to defend itself after the atrocities of October 7. And I also said continuously, but how it does matters. As I reflect on, especially as time went on after October 7, what we failed to do around, we have great power and leverage, and I regret that we did not exercise that leverage in a way that I think we could have. And I look at what's happening now in Gaza, and I mean, my heart breaks. It has been breaking in terms of what is happening there. I gave a speech, again, I've reflected on that in terms of in the context of the campaign. I gave a speech a year and a half ago now. The first person at the highest level of the administration on the starvation in Gaza. It was at the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge at the anniversary of the commemoration of Bloody Sunday. And I took a lot of heat for it. But I look at what's happening now and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And, on the trans piece, it's just, we can't condone an environment where first of all, it's such a small fraction of the percentage of the population.
Yes.
And who are living in such incredible fear. And I think it's important to recognize that. It's important to, in the conversation, yes, let us please respect the right of parents to weigh in on their concerns about their children, their girls in sports and all that. So I absolutely. And let's recognize that there is also an environment that is making this very, very small population of people, because of the way they're being vilified, live in abject fear. And I think we've got to deal with that. Part of my regret in the campaign is I should have pushed back more on what they were doing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the piece of the trans piece for me, and we're both from Oakland, we're both Bay Area people. So, I think sometimes growing up in a place like Oakland, I think I forget a little bit of what other people are feeling or seeing in the world, because I not only was I raised in Oakland, but I was raised by some really incredible progressive humans. But I do think, with the trans issue and the kids and the sports piece of it, it has gotten so out of whack that like kids playing sports has turned into, it's okay to completely like attack and erase and do all these things. I mean, in that section, you have numbers and you talk about, this issue is both politics and people. And the people part of it is it's like there's 10 people competing in women's sports who are transgender at the collegiate level. There are 2 people who had received the gender reassignment surgery in 2024, or not even the surgery, but just gender reaffirming care in 2024 imprisoned. And that there was something like 3,000 people who had been targeted, and 40%.
But here's the thing. I laid that out for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Including this. How is it that, one must ask, it became such a big issue?
Yeah. That's what I think. I mean,
small population.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And I think that, we have to think about that. But,
Right. I think it
I
was,
think that
yeah.
there are many aspects of this campaign that really do highlight also, that there were a lot of distractions from the biggest
Yes.
issues.
Yeah.
The biggest issue being affordability.
Yep.
And you think about it, and this is part of why I wrote the book, to remind us of something, of many things, including, look, Trump ran on a campaign where he made so many promises to the people who voted for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he has broken so many of those promises.
Yep.
And we knew that was going to happen. He
Yep.
said he was going to bring down prices on day one. And you look at today, the cost of food is up, unemployment is up, inflation is up.
Yep.
Promises made and broken to people who believed him.
Right.
And then you look at the promises that he made that he kept. Weaponizing the Department of Justice against his political enemies, retribution, silencing the media,
Yep.
putting military on the streets of America, lining his pockets and those of billionaires with a tax policy that is about helping the richest people in the country on the backs of working people. And because, of course, the promises he breaks are the promises where he benefits, right?
Of course. Yeah.
And then you look at immigration, mass deportations. We knew what was going to happen. He told us. I was talking to a friend recently who told me she was talking to this gentleman who was a big Trump supporter, and he's Cuban and in Miami. And his girlfriend, I don't know, common law wife, but his partner of 20-something years, who is also Cuban, is under deportation proceedings to be sent to Sudan.
Mm.
And so my friend says to him, well, how do you think this happened? Well, he didn't say, he said he was going to go after criminals. He didn't say this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just really important for us to also, as we look at where we are right now in 2025 and think about what happened in those 107 days, we've got to remember that he told us what he was going to do.
Right.
They told us what they were going to do, and they're doing it. And as we look forward to midterms, as we look forward to any future election cycle, listen to what they tell us. And they've been, because it's bigger than Trump.
Yeah.
It's about a whole lot of people around him in elected office, in appointed office, who are facilitating an agenda that has been decades in the making. And I hope that one of the takeaways from this book is in reminding people of that, to remind us that the fight takes some time, but we got to fight.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Valentine's Day is upon us, and I've got love on the brain. Love for books, duh, of course. Hello. Did you forget what podcast you're listening to? I love bringing you all great reads, exclusive author interviews, and behind the scenes book gossip. But I can only do that with your support over on Patreon and Substack. Our Stacks Patreon community, also known as the Stacks Pack, is where you can go for book club meetups, a private, very active Discord, and a year-long mega reading challenge to help you achieve all your reading goals. Plus, you also get that monthly bonus episode. Now, over on the Substack, you can subscribe to my newsletter, Unstacked, where I keep the book conversations going. I also give you a healthy dose of sports and pop culture, definitely some hot takes happening over there. And again, that bonus episode. If you don't have a few dollars to spare, don't worry. There are free options on the Substack and the Patreon to get you a little extra Stacks magic. Making this podcast is a total team effort, and by supporting my Patreon and my Substack, you allow me to support my amazing team that makes the show possible every single week. So if you or your friends are looking to meet other book lovers and support this indie podcast, come hang out with me on Patreon, Substack, or both. I would love to have you. And since we're talking about love, you can gift subscriptions to the Patreon and the Substack for that special reader in your life. For the Stacks Pack, head to patreon.com/thestacks. And for the newsletter, head to tracythomas.substack.com. And also, there are links to both in the show notes. Okay, see you in the stacks. Okay, I want to shift totally. So for people who are new to my podcast, who I assume will be because you're here, thanks for being here. This is actually a podcast about books, believe it or not. And there's a few questions that I ask almost every author who comes on the show. One of them is, how do you write? How often? Where are you? Are there snacks and beverages? Are there rituals? Set the scene for us. How does this book come to be?
Okay, so first of all, just in terms of overall rituals, I pretty much, other than having like tea in the morning, the first thing I have to do is work out.
Okay.
I don't do anything else before I've worked out. So that happens first.
And you're an elliptical person.
And
That's what I read in the book.
Although recently I've been kind of trying to do a little weights with the treadmill, whatever. But yeah, so there's my.
And what kind of tea?
Black tea with honey and lemon.
With honey.
And sometimes.
Okay, I'm a black tea with half and half and sugar. Really very intense.
I was that person. Yeah.
Okay.
Not any longer, but it is delicious. I get you. And then it's in my sweats, shower and all that, in my sweats at my desk. And I have my favorite blue pen. And, I'm old school that way. Like, just give me a yellow pad and a pen and I'm really happy.
Like this?
There you go. See, that's it. That's exactly it.
I'm black ink. I like a black
Well,
ink.
I'm blue ink. I'm total blue ink. And in fact, people have made fun of me because I have this one favorite pen that is not, it's like it comes in a box. It's not like many of them. And people have made fun of me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take that, because if that's the sign of somebody who likes to write.
Yes.
They have a favorite kind of pen. So
That's right.
I'm not going to take that crap about, she's got this fetish about that certain pen.
No, there's very many people who have come on this podcast who have talked about a pen, a paper, whatever.
It's your writing tool.
It's your thing. It's your job. You're writing. Okay. What's the word you can never spell correctly on the first try?
It's really awful. I'm really embarrassed. I've never told anybody. There. The possessive there.
All three. You got
there. No, I can do there, like there. Meaning over there.
Yes.
But if I'm talking about there, meaning those people there, that I and E mess me up all the time.
I love this.
Right before E, except after C.
I love this, honestly. The reason I asked this question is because I started doing this podcast years ago, and then I'm a terrible speller. Like, I can never spell anything. And I thought, I bet some of these writers who I think are just so brilliant can't spell either. So I started asking this question, and it's one of my favorite ones because there's either I can't spell anything, or I have this one word, or sorry to disappoint you, I won my spelling bee and I'm amazing. And usually those people we boo. We're like, no,
it's
get out of here.
I and E. It just, on that one word.
It's okay. We all have our flaws,
Confession. Yes.
On this book, you worked with Geraldine Brooks, famous novelist.
Yes.
I want to know, why did you want to bring her in? What were you hoping was going to happen with this partnership?
Well, first of all, let me say that through this partnership, we formed a really incredible friendship. She's an incredible human. And, she was a serious journalist. She's a serious writer, an award-winning writer. And I wanted to work with someone who would get it, who would understand the depth and nuance of the issues. But at the same time, it was really important for me to write a book that was not the run-of-the-mill, somebody who's run for office writes a book and it's, whatever. I wanted it to read like a novel. And because that's how I experienced it. That old kind of cliche about fact is stranger than fiction. It often is. It often is. And so writing it in a way that the reader will, like I said, it's basically a book that is a political thriller nonfiction. Yeah. And so that's what it was. But I'm a huge fan of hers. I was a fan of her work even before we started collaborating.
What other books do you love? What are if you were going to do your Barack Obama book list, which I think you should. I think we need more politician book lists. I would vote yes. What would you put on yours? What are some of the best things you've read recently?
One of the books that I read recently that I just absolutely enjoyed is How to Say Babylon. It's just an incredible book about a woman's journey. Again, she's telling a true story about her own life and her family.
Yeah.
So that was great. I love that book. And then Master, Slave, Husband, Wife.
We did that for book club here.
Yes. So I'm not finished with it, but I'm reading. Okay. That's what I'm reading now.
That's really interesting.
By my bed right now.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay, before we get out of here, I want to ask you about the future. I think, we started here talking about what scary time it is in our country. I think most people listening to this conversation are probably feeling similarly about that.
Yeah.
Give us advice. Help us. What do we do? Where do we go?
First of all, part of what I realize at this stage of my life and career that I am willing to confess, I don't have all the answers.
Sure.
It's driving me crazy though. But I just realize I don't have all the answers right now. But I have some. And one of them that I've always known, we have to fight. Mm-hmm. And we have to know that the fight takes a while, but we cannot give up. We cannot let our spirits be defeated, right? Then they're really winning.
Yeah.
And we cannot define our success based on any particular election cycle either, right? And so part of what I want just everyone to remember is, and this is part of what I hope the reader will take away is just to be reminded of that energy and that excitement and that hope. And that's in us. Nobody gave it to anybody who showed up or felt something about that time. Mm-hmm. It was in us. Mm-hmm. And it's still in us. And we're in a dark moment right now, to be sure. And it may get worse, okay? But we each still have some light in us. And we've got to tap into that and into the light in each other in a way that reminds us of our power and our ability to fight for what we know is right. We're fighting for something, not against something. Mm-hmm. And let's not be defeated. Let's not be defeated.
And I have to ask the question that everyone's going to ask you, which is, are you running again for public office?
I am not focused on that right now. I've got my book tour. I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be traveling and talking with folks. I really do want to listen. That's one of the reasons I decided not to run for governor of California. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to listen to people without asking them for something.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask for your vote. I don't want it to be transactional. I just want to, I think people have a lot to say and they're feeling a whole lot. And people are feeling a whole lot. So
I think you're right about that for sure. Well, here's my last question. If you could have one person, dead or alive, read 107 Days, who would you want it to be?
My mother.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, this has been truly one of the great honors of my professional career and of my life. I am a supporter. I am a fan. And I'm just really honored that you took the time to come do a little book podcast. My goodness.
Well, thank you for doing this podcast. It's so exciting. And you're creating such a great place for community and for the exchange of thoughts and feelings and ideas. And we all need that right now. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone else, we will see you in the stacks.
See you later.
All right, y'all, that does it for us today. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you, of course, to Vice President Kamala Harris. What an honor. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to her amazing team, Liz Biber, Kirsten Allen, Julia Prosser, and Juan Dromgoole. And don't forget, new episodes of The Stacks are out every Wednesday. The Stacks Book Club pick for September is The Lilac People by Milo Todd, which we will be discussing on Wednesday, September 24th with Den Michelle Norris. If you love this podcast, if you want inside access to it, head to patreon.com/thestacks and join the Stacks Pack, and check out my newsletter at tracythomas.substack.com. Make sure you're subscribed to The Stacks wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're listening through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please leave us a rating and a review. For more from The Stacks, follow us on social media at The Stacks Pod on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, and check out our website at thestackspodcast.com. Today's episode of The Stacks was edited by Christian Duenas, with production assistance from Waikia Freelo. Our graphic designer is Robin McCrite, and our theme music is from Tagira Gis. The Stacks is created and produced by me, Tracy Thomas.